Welcome to Measurably Better Learning, the podcast built for learning and development professionals. Whether you're an instructional designer, L&D professional, or corporate leader, get ready for insights and ideas that will transform your approach to learning, training, and development. So let's dive in. All right, welcome to the Measurably Better Learning podcast. And today I get to play host, and Miriam gets to play expert, which is way better, by the way.
And play is the word there.
our topic for today is roadmaps, career roadmaps. A really important topic, particularly for younger generations.
Yeah.
That aren't going to likely be in a job for 35 years. They hit a gold watch. They want to know something's coming. They want to know what it is, and they want to know why you're thinking that particular way. So walk us through, Miriam, when you hear roadmap, career, helping people. Well, I think this is maybe your first point. What's the difference between making one and helping somebody else make one? Because I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah, no, it is my first point, because I think it's something I had to learn early in my career, and I probably didn't learn it very well for a while, which is, I think, as a learning leader, it's your job to provide, across an organization, to provide tools and to provide assistance, but with people on your immediate team, even if you're thinking of that. There are points of time where you can insert some expertise and make some suggestions, but I think I took too much of that on myself, as opposed to providing the framework and the tools. But your role really is to be a facilitator or a guide, but that's their responsibility to work their way through some of those tools. And so if you have that framework in your head, that mindset, that also, I think, just helps you approach it from the right way and not take on too much for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it for them to own it, needs to be individualized.
It does.
And they need, if it's going to be individualized, they need to have input. You know, it's more like the high school guidance counselor.
Yes.
Right. Than your parents who are going, here's what you need to do for here's a good paying job right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so. There's also a difference, I think, demographically between like a younger generation of workers, maybe just 5 to 10 years or less in the workforce, as opposed to somebody who's mid-career and where they're looking. But one of the first things I really suggest is the importance of self-assessment and goal setting. Like you said, I definitely, sometimes it depends on person. Sometimes I think it's maybe, I don't want to say generations or groups of people, but I mean, I think some people are more prone to self-reflection and self-assessment, and if they don't see their own blind spots, they're certainly very open to hearing from other people what those are.
Gently.
And then there's other people who will sail through life and never even see the biggest, glaringest blind spot ever.
Yeah.
And so
if you come to a family reunion, you'll meet some of those folks.
Exactly.
So.
Well, and that's why I think that's one of those first things before we even, that's a part of a career roadmap, but it's like, let's do some self-assessments, and there's a lot of tools, and most organizations provide access to those, but let's do some self-assessment based on that as opposed to just, I love ambitious people, right? Like you wouldn't hire, but when somebody walks in the door and a month later is like, what is it going to take for me to be the vice president?
Right.
On one hand, I'm like, yes, I love that ambition. On the other hand, I'm like, all right, slow your roll.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah.
You know what? I don't mind explaining to that person what it takes to do that.
Agreed.
It's just way harder.
Right.
Than whatever's going on in your head.
Right.
It's way harder than that. Right. So, okay. So you're engaging them from the beginning of the process, from the beginning of the recipe. What do you need to do next?
Right. So if they've done some of those assessments, they could be skill assessments, they can be personality or traits, all those things. I do think then that's more on them. You're providing the tool, but then the place for the learning leader to step in, or whoever the frontline manager is, whatever that is to help them identify key skills and knowledge areas. So if they're right out of school, maybe they're very familiar, but if they're mid-career, maybe there's things they need to recognize, like in order to go to the next level, I need these skills, or I don't have this knowledge. Perhaps they came out of, we often see in the learning in the L&D industry, people come out of maybe an HR background and they lack some of the learning expertise, or vice versa. They have a learning expertise, but they lack that business acumen.
Yeah.
So helping them, okay, here's your assessment, step one, this, and then here's where the organization, the industry says you need to be more knowledgeable in these areas.
And that
And-
kind of leads to the next one,
Right,
because
right.
here's where I am, here's where I need to be. And that's not always an easy conversation.
That's not.
To get somebody to understand this will probably take longer and be harder than you think it's going to. And then there's where the learning team can really step in. And where do they step in?
Right. And I think there's so much information in the world that we live in right now, but for the learning team to provide opportunities to curate learning materials, and typically, if that's done well, that's done in conjunction with your HR department, who has, right, like roles and descriptions and what's required for those. But then it doesn't mean creating all original material. That it might just be providing subscriptions to people, or pointing them in the right direction, or sending them to workshops, webinars, internal, like that's a huge thing, internal training programs where we have a coach or a mentor that's working with someone. But that's where the learning team really steps in. But again, they don't own the process. They're providing the materials, and it's on that person to choose from them appropriately.
Yeah, I thought of this kind of like, the all-you-can-eat bar. It's up to you to pick what you're going to eat. And some people pick nothing.
Right.
And they starve. And other people load their plates and they can't eat it all. So maybe there's a little wisdom that can be shared in a little bit of guidance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here's some things you might want to think about and look at. But it's very, very hard if somebody really doesn't have career aspirations.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about that when we come back, because there are some ways we can nudge people along.
Yeah. Motivation is a huge part of it.
It definitely is.
So, all right, we'll be back in a couple minutes, and we'll keep our conversation going.
All right.
Imagine a world where every training session, every learning module, and every translated document is aligned with your company's unique goals and global ambitions. Welcome to Ingenuity, where we don't just talk about elevating your corporate learning, we make it happen. At Ingenuity, we understand the heart of your business is its people. That's why we specialize in creating custom learning solutions and translation services that are not just effective, but are designed specifically for your business's global needs. Let us show you how learning cannot be just better, but measurably better, with solutions tailored just for you. Learn more in the description below.
All right, so where do you want to go next? I mean, we've got we understand current status of the person where they are. We've got, okay, here's the roles that are interesting, attractive to them.
Right.
Here's the gap. We provided some learning opportunities for them. They've got a table full of food.
Right.
Now what happens?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you have to address what you talked about. There's some people that will take that and run with it. But you also have people at both ends of the spectrum who either they're just not interested at all, which I find that hard to believe. But what I think is that we haven't provided them with the right opportunities to be motivated.
They're probably a very small percentage of people who truly don't care, and they don't care oftentimes because there's other stuff in their life.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But most people, we're thinking, and we're positivist, right?
Right.
And most L&D people are. We think the best of people.
Right.
We think there's some motivation.
Yeah. Or people have, again, they're overwhelmed by the all you can eat. And so there is a role for the learning and development department to work with HR, or maybe you're off together, it depends on your organization, but to use, we have what we call personalized learning plans, right? Your company, your organization probably calls it something different, but there's a lot of generic ones. A lot of companies have their own, but you provide a template that allows honestly, it's like the creation of a learning program. Your employee is going to put what their goals are, and then there is a spot there for whoever's most involved with them to, okay, here's your goals. What resources are you going to pick? Some things might be small, right? Like, I'm going to watch this quick video, or I'm going to listen to these episodes of a podcast. Some of them are big. I'm going to work with a coach for a year on these 3 topics, and here's where the metrics need to move for me. But this is where the rubber meets the road. And I would say that not many companies have it to this detail.
No.
We often stop at here's the all you can eat buffet. It's the university, the company university. Good luck.
And then the company says, well, gee, it's weird. Nobody
uses that.
nobody's using this thing that
Right.
boy knows about. How odd.
Right. Well, and if you don't have the bandwidth and all of that to create for every person or have them really create these personalized learning paths, certainly your LMS, most all of them, there is the ability anymore to create some pathways people can at least self-select for themselves.
So something you just said, I find fascinating. A company that makes all of this stuff available and gets right up to the point of it's all there, it's all on the table. But, without a learning path, I don't know what to choose.
Right.
That's kind of like, I don't know what's healthy. I don't know what I need right now. You need a little bit of like a nutritionist to say, these are the things you should eat. These are the things you shouldn't eat. How do you get them to reflect? We've talked in other podcasts about the need to reflect and think and how do you help them with accessibility in some of this stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, we can do, this really gets to assessment and evaluation, right, of our career paths. Are they actually doing, I can take in all the information, but if I'm not applying it, if the needle isn't moving, then our team, our learning and development team still isn't helping. So,
Right.
I think fostering reflection has to come in two ways. Some in the learning design. We'd actually seen, even built into eLearning, times where it's like, okay, get off, shut this off. We've had like printable notebooks or people can write notes, but I also think like we just tend to,
Or you can do that in a cohort, smaller
exactly.
group where you're
Yes.
just talking amongst yourselves.
I think as an industry, we tend to just like, oh, is e-learning? Well, no. Like if we have leadership topics, communication skills topics, those kinds of things, let's do those in cohorts. Let's do them on site or virtually, but that allows time for people to process. Working with a coach or a mentor allows them to reflect and get feedback. And honestly, if you're not seeking feedback, how serious are you about improving? Even though feedback isn't always fun, it's helpful. You have to hear it to be able to improve.
Well, and just a chance to practice.
Absolutely.
And some of the things I've done, some things we have too in different sessions where you're given a chance to practice in the group. It's safe, and you mess it up first time.
Yep.
If you mess it up the first time in real life, you'll never do it again.
Right.
If you mess it up in a practice session, you get a chance to correct it. And then when you do it in real life, chances are it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think to me, that's kind of the final step for an individual. Now, as an organization, you also want to be championing the ability for people to adapt, right? Like this, these career skills, and maybe it's a very different set of skills, but I have these traits that I can transfer. And just we talk about this all the time, a culture of learning, continuous learning.
Yeah.
But I think when people see that they have a direction they can go, there's room to also change, and there's resources and there's people to walk alongside of them who are excited about helping them improve. I mean, honestly, that's the best way to retain top talent, to attract top talent, to really make your organization thrive.
And they're going to pull in the information they want and need,
Yeah.
as long as you're helping them understand what it is, why they need it, and making it available in really good formats and accessible to them. So,
Yeah.
well, Miriam, as always, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
for thinking through this, and we will see you all next time. Before we wrap up the show, if you're looking to dive deeper, we've got tons of free downloads, L&D resources, and details about upcoming webinars that you won't want to miss. They're found in the episode description. Plus, if you ever want to chat with either one of us, now's your chance. You can find links in the episode description to connect directly with Miriam or me. We're here to answer your questions and to discuss all things learning and development. And speaking of questions, we love hearing from you. Whether it's a question or a comment or a topic you're curious about, or if you just want to join the conversation, drop us a comment on your favorite social media channel. Your input shapes our shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. It's the best way to ensure you never miss out on our latest episode. We're excited to continue to transform learning into a measurable success with you. Until next time.